anvils first and puts their foot down on that Nocturne line.
So getting a drop double 3 cost is really interesting because some of these units can utilize artifacts really, really well. I mean, if you're playing something like the Ezreal, getting an early gold collector, for instance, can give you so much tempo in the early game.
Yeah, you're really thinking about the units that can pair with the artifacts extremely, extremely well. Quick strikers, I think, is the obvious options, but a lot of those melee rerolls have, you know, more chances and options.
Family, I think, is a great example of that. Just being able to have multiple options for the Violet, and you just look at reroll being so consistent for these first couple of games. That's a great strategy to lean into.
Yeah, I do tend towards melee in this type of encounter because you have things like the Prowler's Claw that is great for the ambushers and for Violet at the same time.
But how do you feel about Dish Soap getting that Morgana 2 so early? I think there's actually a couple of good artifacts that open up those AP lines as well.
The best ones would be Anima Visage in the front line, and of course, if you're running something like a Blitzcrank maybe, then it would be the Endless Despair.
Or Innervating Locket on your ready.
Even Light Shield Crest on some of the Sentinels, if you're going for that Singe, that Rel, could be pretty impactful as well.
A lot of good options. No pops so far. It's like, I really like the players who pop early.
Oh! All of a sudden, we're seeing that hero augment presented, combat medic, with the multiplicative effects of having an extra artifact, potentially items as well, could be so big.
But this is Sao Pimi, who did pop, gets the rapid fire cannon right off the bat, and look at those components. That's an RFC plus an Infinity Edge right off the bat, 2 of Nocturne's best items.
And what about just getting another item? Like, you could take item grab back here, or you could take Pandora's, which is a great choice if you're not happy with the other components that you have.
You have really good items already, though, for anything that wants to pair with RFC, so I think Pandora's maybe not the best option here. Maybe just an extra item. Although the randomness of both branching out item grab bag, when you have a clear line into Nocturne.
Mentorship is a good line, though.
Strong.
That sounds fantastic.
Well, don't we like our rerolls for our augments?
Oh, Kingslayer and Anima's Visage being selected by Lucas here.
Could be a Zeri setup. We saw Rageblade components were there in the item bench.
And this is the best hero augment early in this patch right here. We're going to have the Mad Chemist walking across the board, and a great find with the Death Stance in replacement of the Bloodthirster.
Yeah, I mean, this is already kind of fitting the shape of the things you want on Singe, right? You want to be able to sustain yourself, having the Omnivamp and the delayed damage taken due to the Death Stance. On top of that, though, you have the Archangel Slam. You have infinite scaling on the fight, so as long as he can hit on tempo, I think BO is looking to be a contender for a strong run this game.
And the power of hero augments comes from, this is a game plan that really wants you to play for a hyper carry setup, a 1v9 setup where you have things like this Singe, things like even just normal reroll with Tristana or Nocturne, really carrying a lot of the weight in your comp. When you're able to funnel all of your resources into that unit with an artifact as well, you have a 3-item carry much earlier on, especially for 1-cost rerolls where you want to spike somewhere in stage 3. You can even sometimes win streak stage 2 with just a 2-star fully itemized, roll down on 3-1, if you're a little bit fortunate, hit the 3-star, and then continue win streaking all of stage 3 as well.
The Sorcerer setup here for Dasik, as you've got that Manazane going onto the Swain with that Shojin. You're still holding on to a pair of Zyras, so looking good.
I love the pickup here of risky moves from Dasik, sacrifices 20 HP early. This is very strong when you have the opportunity to 5-streak because you're able to leverage your gold a little bit more. It doesn't bother you to level to 6 on 3-1 because you'll make up so much gold on stage 3 when all of that comes in. Having Manazane and Spear of Shojin on a Swain drop from the orb means that Dasik's already set up to very, very easily contest for a 5-streak.
But look at this. Dish Soap actually has 5 copies of the Morgana, has the open tier to be able to go for something like a blue buff, and that does look like maybe is going to contest Bio.
Dish Soap sending a clear message, don't talk to me or my daughters ever again.
Well, Dish Soap does have the Blighting Jewel, which is great with sustained damage, but honestly, if you look at the statistics, the tanks are a little bit better, and you really need Brutal Claws to make this anomaly work, as the tick downs do reduce the magic resist of the units as well.
I will say I really like the pickup of the component buffet for Dish Soap. Playing the Morgana line, you really want to have specific items depending on your setup, and so being able to ensure that you get a blue buff is going to be very, very powerful for Dish Soap.
3 Quick Striker players, and this is exactly what we expect when it comes to those artifact augments. Of course, there will be a lot of transitions, likely from Lilo and Ironbog, that don't necessarily have the strongest +1 range item.
But Sal P. Mew is actually one of the players in this lobby that had the most Quick Striker games played over the last 2 days. So I feel like you have to know at some level that that might be coming from him, right?
And we're going to see later on with Check especially coming into play in Game 4, there's going to be obviously tactical griefing, holding units, trying to stop players from reaching that checkmate. It can already be the case here where players transition stage 2 and 3, contesting these Quick Striker units and then push out of them in stage 4 while making it so that the full Quick Striker player is going to have a much harder time hitting those 3 stars early in stage 4.
We have seen a lot of these tactical, like you said, like sort of griefing.
Playing defense.
You want to hold them down early to make sure that this comp doesn't run away. Because with the rapid fire cannon, it's so easy for Automata to just completely dominate stage 3.
Like you said, though, David, it is way higher value to do that once you already have some points in the pocket, right? Right now, you got to care about yourself. You got to play as selfishly as possible. I expect everybody to be playing their line just for their own placements for this game before we move into defense as being a very important trait later on in the day.
Really good loss from Jedusor. He's trying to go for the 5-loss streak. Has a completed Guinsu Rage Blade, doesn't slam that. And if you see the combo right here, he's one piece away from the best Trenchcoat combo with the Sterex and the Edge of Night.
Look at his HP for a potential 5 loss, too. 82 HP, 4 loss is fantastic. And on the other side, the only person contesting a 100 streak is Dasik, sitting at the bottom, 80 HP still because of the
risky moves.
moves.
It's one of the rare situations in TFT where you see someone at the bottom of the HP standings with maybe a 5-win streak after this last fight.
Oh, does have to go through Lucas, though, with those double Lorises. And the 2-star Zeri. I actually think that Lucas has this.
This is a very high tempo situation from Dasik with both Ionic Spark and the Sunfire Slams to really try and win streak all of stage 2. Manazane, one of the generic, I think the best artifact in the game outside of rerolls, and it's also so flexible. Dasik is someone who likes playing creatively, likes playing into a lot of open comps in stage 4, especially. He's not locked in by picking Manazane here.
That's true, because you could go to the Sorcerer route, which you do have online, but you could also look at maybe going Black Rose. You could go Dominators with the setup as well. Good Silco item.
Even Visionaries as well. If you opt into playing around something like the Malzahar late game, if you feel you can get there, you have enough tempo, it's certainly another line that's open.
All right, Jedusor is doing a bit of a roll down now to try to get some upgrades for his family reroll. Kind of a couple of copies off of, I think, having some big stabilization points, but you're going to get a lot, maybe hopefully more money here too on this round.
Key note is Jedusor, despite the popularity of Family as one of the best reroll lines in the current meta, has not played a single game across the first 2 games or 2 days. He did play a lot at EMEA Regional, so he's definitely comfortable on the comp. I think every competitor should be at this point in time. We're in the last day of the set, really. But he will have to especially tailor at 3-1, make sure he has the option for the Family +1 open at 3-2.
Really good item finds for here. Gets the BF sword off of the Krugs right there. And I think, Jedusor is known to favor those macro lines a little bit more, but when you have the artifact, you kind of have to play towards it in this Violet.
Feels like a really strong setup, to be honest. For Jedusor, this feels like you're perfectly on tempo for where you want to be at 3-1. He has the primary conditions that allow you to cap out as high as possible with the Sterex and Edge of Night, as you were calling out before. To me, this actually feels like one of the instances in which Family can fight for a top 2.
Ooh.
Tough position for BO. Roll down to the mathematically correct 33, 34. Only 6 copies of Singe, so still 3 off of having that major spike.
We'll take out that TF first, though. So that's 3 items on the board from Ironbogen. Does look like BO is going to take this one.
I always wonder when you're playing the hero augments, because you can get so few reps into these games, it's way harder to judge the general board strength as compared to the lines that you're playing every game.
I think when it comes to these 1-cost hero augments, I really like at the beginning of stage 3, you've got 3 completed items is like a great spot to be in, and having a 2-star and a couple of good copies means that you're not too far off from having the tempo of being able to push levels once you do finish out your 3-star. But this stage is where BO has to get that online, otherwise things would start to look a little grim.
The only problem, I think, is for a player as confident and as flexible as BO, you are entirely locked into playing into this line, obviously. The moment you don't hit, which can happen in maybe 10% of the games, you just really hit very, very late, your game is essentially over late into stage 3. You already know how far behind you are in tempo.
But he's good at opting into the variants, and if it works out, then that's an easy top 4 for BO.
I think the critical thing for me here is to see which players are pivoting off of that quick striker line, and it does look like Lilo with his War for the Undercity is going to be going into a different direction. We also saw a pretty big roll down from Ironbog as well, so we'll catch up to how these quick strikers form up, but of course, South P Meat with the rapid fire cannon is going to have right of way.
I mean, isn't that also, what is that? No scout, is that no scout? No pivot? That's not, right?
The second augment for South P Meat?
Yeah.
Oh, it is Scavenger, isn't
Jeez.
it? It's an augment that is so rarely
like,
ever
wow.
picked up that, I think a lot of people, to be honest, see the icon and are a little confused. Scavenger is something that requires you to be ahead of the lobby. It's a very snowball-y sort of augment because if you are not getting the first kill in the fight, the value goes down drastically.
And this is what we were talking about earlier with Panda in the tactical breakdown, is like for the early games, you actually want to stabilize your points. Quick Striker actually has one of the lowest win rates in terms of reroll compositions, and he's also three-way contested potentially. So he's just getting the best tempo augments he can.
Despite that, though, you have to keep in mind that there are conditions in which these low win rate reroll comps suddenly become the compositions that can spike very hard. One of those happens to be having the RFC on the Nocturne. Same thing for the same reason that we're saying the Trenchcoat on Family.
Ironbog here playing defense, not fully locked into quick strikers, but will be playing it as a tempo option throughout stage 2 and 3. Ironbog's someone who famously does like playing into just whatever he hits on his roll down in stage 4. Curious to see with this combination of items and the Sniper's Focus artifact, what he ends up on in that stage 4.
I mean, I could see, it's a far transition, but I do feel like the items do lend themselves. If you end up playing something like Dominators, there's a world where you're playing something like a Sniper's Focus, Archangel, Mordekaiser or something. I see the angle.
You stole my point.
It's a cop-out, Gangly, because Mordekaiser holds almost every artifact in the game correctly, so.
Now, but have you seen like Sniper Focus Fishbones, like RFC on a Mordekaiser?
Nope, I haven't.
I have. Don't know how well that went, but you know what?
Now, Dishope has been playing relatively low tempo. We saw him earlier on the stage, and I noticed that he was still sitting at 50 gold, opted to not roll down to 30 on that 3-1 stage. So I'm not sure if his concern is that he doesn't value that early HP, or if he's trying to spike here in the back half of stage 3 because he doesn't have any of those 1-cost 3-stars.
And Dishope also playing defense, picked up the Zoe there in the carousel first pick. Daisy with risky moves, despite the win streak, could have maybe picked that up as well. Not going to be there in the HP totals now after just winning too many rounds in stage 2. Would have been great for his Sorcerer setup, especially with a tier on the Zoe.
What do you all make of this board that Lulol has?
Well, I'm pretty sure he's not going quick strikers anymore, so I think that's a relief for the other two players potentially.
But where do you put the Mana Zane now if you're going something like, Chem Baron Ambushers?
Well, I'm not exactly
okay, we'll
sure.
get there.
To be honest, I mean, there's a world where like maybe if you can put it on Jinx, right? Like you get your first test off and all of a sudden you get a ton of mana incoming. Like it can probably be held by Echo and not feel too bad. I don't know exactly what the stats would be on that, but I think the rest of the setup lends itself quite well to being able to play Ambusher. Dishope, though, is what we're looking at now, and this is actually what I was saying before at the end of the carousel. Played very low tempo up until 3-5, and then once he hit the Morgana, we can see leveled up, still 40 gold. This is a really strong position to be able to hit your Morgana on. I do wonder if he's actually going to chase the Singe, though. He's currently sitting at 6, I believe.
We'll be a little bit hard with
3.
Rio.
He benched his Singe, so he's just sitting 3. I think that's a tell. He's definitely not going to be chasing the Singe 3.
Well, Bio has it, so...
There's room for 2.
That's true, but I think the odds are so much exponentially lower that I think the risk of rolling isn't worth the reward because you just might not hit the 3-star.
I love the second augment here from Bio as well. Magic Wand getting the extra rod, extra AP, but also the extra armor for the Singe, who is kind of a melee AP carry due to his rotating movement around the map.
That's a nice way to put it.
Now, Lucas is actually playing the Zeri reroll. This is a line that was quite popular for quite a while and has fallen out of favor, I would say, over the last 2-3 weeks. This weekend in particular, definitely not one of the high prioritized 2-cost reroll. And I do wonder how much of this is actually coming off that second augment. Is it called Overheal? Is that the name of it? Yeah,
correct.
So you kind of have that base sustain on the Zeri, and maybe that's one of the reasons Lucas felt like it's good enough to play rather than trying to go 8 and play around Twitch, which truthfully we've seen more popularly and have quite high highs when it's played.
I wonder how much gold Lucas has got with this Kingslayer, because I feel like he's actually very ahead of tempo here. It's one of the most interesting augments to look at, and recently buffed to be incredibly strong.
Again, Jedusaur here, a great second augment pickup. Overall, gold augments really lean heavily into these melee comps. There's so many great augments like Unleash the Beast, so many Omnivamp augments as well. In this case, already double Sterax are built here, both on the Vander and the Violet. The Violet is 3-starred, close to that Draven and that Darius as well.
It's a really good tempo for Jedusaur so far.
Really hard here too, yeah.
You love it when your 3-stars come one by one, and they're not spread out and like hogging your bench.
So he's able to level to 6 here. Adds another Darius. Once he gets to level 7, that's when you can get that spike of the 4 Pit Fighter, which is kind of your next big rung on your climb. You can kind of think of it as hit your 3-stars is level 1. Level 2 is get 4 Pit Fighter in. 6 Pit Fighter, though, is where it really turns on. And with this setup, Jedu does have the potential for a win out if he can hit that highest cap.
Ooh, look, Lucas hit the Zeri 3.
Quite rich, too, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't have to roll down to 0s, got best in slot items for the Zeri as well.
So talking about the general shape of the meta, the tempo is extremely fast. There's 6 rerollers so far, and it only looks like Iron Bog might be going Dominators and Dasik with the Sorks. So a big question is, can those macro players, do they have the HP to actually hang on, and will they hit on 4-2?
Right, exactly. If you're Iron Bog going on 4-2 and you go for a roll down and whiff, you are going to get punished so hard by all of the rerollers in the lobby.
Prismatic augments at 4-2 for Dasik. We could see greater Moonlight and sticking to that Zyra carry potentially. We'll see what else we can find here in terms of adding a lot of variance, a lot of power to all of these boards with Prismatic coming through here.
Generally speaking, Prismatic augments a little bit more favorable to the macro boards. There's a lot more items rather than raw combat power on the board. So slightly good news, but we'll have to see how Dasik and Ironbog actually pivot these macro turns.
I think Salpimi took Coronation. We got Bio that got a Sentinel Crest.
Disho takes Visionary Emblem.
Dasik got a Radiant Refractor. Oh, wow. A lot of +1s being offered there for the Prismatics.
I mean, the +1s, oftentimes, if you are a reroller, that's when it can sort of favor you. It's one of the primary ways to spike your board. Like Clements is saying, reroll relies on itemizing your carry, and you don't really need those additional items oftentimes. But getting the +1 is one of the ways to level up that carry that you have all of your 3 items on.
For Bio, getting a Sentinel +1, bypassing the fact that he hit maybe a little bit late, can now just accelerate into 6 Sentinel a little bit quicker, try and stabilize this stage 4, maybe play more for the top 4 than a first at this point in time.
This is what we were talking about. Dasik rolled very, very deep on 4-2, and he has to keep his options alive both ways, splitting his gold into the Dominator lines and the Garen plus the Sork line. So he needs to hit one way or the other, or it's going to be very uncomfortable.
Finding a lot of pieces but not upgrading anything. Xiaopi Mi, on the other hand, just kind of chilling. Playing very low tempo for this line. Feels, despite the fact that he is on the bottom half of the standings, you can see he doesn't feel pressured right now like he has to roll down. Probably waiting until he gets, I would say, 2 more Nocturnes, and I think that might be his go button.
And the Coronation was kind of perfect here because he's angling more towards the 2 cost than the 3 cost with TF. You don't need to go 7 to get better shot odds. You want to stay on 6 and have more gold to do so. So Coronation gives him the 7 spike for 4 Quick Strikers, but allows him to stay on these shot odds and hold this gold for a little bit longer to try and guarantee he hits these 3-stars soon.
I love this scavenger play. It's such a rare augment, but look at that Mbessa. 2 stolen items already. Going for more. Does get the snipe.
Yeah, I do wonder how well the Scavenger augment is going to hold up later on in the game.
Not well, but I like seeing it.
Yeah. Oh, actually, Dasik is able to hold on here. One more cast.
So close.
Wow.
The Garen held on for so long with a Radiant Sunfire.
Oh, big find for Dishsoap if you can get that. The Malzahar being offered.
Gonna be second pick.
So with Dominators going for Dasik, it does mean Ironbog has to go for the Rebels. That's where our macro players are going to end up.
I think Dishsoap's
Finding
gonna
the
get
Jinx
it.
there is huge, though. Ironbog gets the Jinx. Also does have that the Sniper's Focus. I mean, it has some itemization for it, actually. I'm not exactly sure what components he has waiting on the wings. Does he already have an Ionic Spark Slams? He does. So he's clearly picking this up for the Jinx itself, not for the component. I do feel like South Me's got to feel a little bit of pressure now, right? I feel like this might be the time to roll after losing that last one.
Yeah, talking about pressure, Lilo also rolling down heavily right now. 8 loss streak. He does have War for the Undercity, so still can level up a little bit more. And Jedusor, what a great way to cap out for this reroll tempo line, going for the change of fate, having over 60 HP,
Ooh.
big win streak. He hit all of his 1 cost early on, and he gets rewarded with his Prismatic.
The Mel. Oh, that's such a nice unit to have, especially just as an extra layer of protection in some of these fights.
This is one of the scary matchups for Zeri. You don't have a way to burst down the Smeech like Tristana can. It's going to be more, slowly creeping in that damage, and the Smeech has so much time to do whatever he wants to Smeech all over this board. And the Zeri, we're seeing it a stun from Elise, stopping most of that damage coming in his tracks, but still, is there going to be enough from Silco here is a big question with the Mana Zane.
Yeah, I mean, Lilu's kind of opting into the more traditional, the vintage Chembaron line. Having itemization for Smeech is this sort of secondary carry, but playing the Silco too, he's going to hit 445 stacks, but only 13 HP. I think he might need to just take whatever the cash out is here.
He needed a better loss there, but the lure has held on for so long.
Oh, it's War for the Undercity.
Yeah, I would prefer him to go further. He was
Yeah.
actually criticized very heavily at Macau for cashing out too early
Thank you,
and
Safe.
missing out that
17
first
HP,
place.
I think you just have to, actually. The difference in strength between the 400 and the 500 cash out is
That's a lot.
so significant, especially because you have to win out. And so at that point, if you take 400, you are not guaranteed. Of course, not even guaranteed a 500, but it's way easier and way more likely if you can get to that 500 threshold.
Yeah, it's the difference between an 8th and a top 4 or beyond.
Yep. I mean, War for the Undercity is basically the augment you take to try and ensure that you can hit that 500 cash out.
In the meantime, we have Lucas with a very built-up Zeri board. Mini-Me is one of the best augment selections coming in.
That's a lot of mini Zeris. So
Sure
cute.
is.
I think I saw like the mini Ezreals as well.
Yeah, there's a handful of lines that use it really well, primarily.
Mini Twitch.
Yep, mini Twitch as well.
You saw the mini Morganas in stage 2 for Dystope.
Mini Morgana, yeah. So the reason this works really well is because the bounces from the ability from Zeri also strip the armor as well. So it's a really nice combination, very rare to see. And on the other hand, I'm wondering what Dishtop did take. Brutal Claws is usually considered the tier 1 best for Morgana with Blighting Jewel, but you could also just take something generic frontline.
I think you need the Jewel Gauntlet in order to proc the Brutal Claws, though, no?
You can itemize it later on.
Okay.
Yeah. But it works really well with the DOT. The cap is extremely high.
He actually took the deep roots for the Alawi because you saw the
Also a fantastic
Vizieri
pick.
get pulled towards
I mean,
her.
anytime you're playing around the Visionaries, it's basically just this war of attrition, right? And so finding something to beef
cash
out
out.
that front line. This is the cash out, though, from Liluo.
Perfected piltoven hex armor. Sorry, that's such a mouthful to get through.
Gonna be on 4 HP, 10 loss streak. Has to win every single fight going forward, or we'll start off this day 3 with an 8th place.
Yeah, I
How do we
don't
feel about this cash out?
definitely doesn't feel like the strongest one, but he's only 1 off from the Rennie. If he gets that, then it's the best. And actually, scratch that, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I didn't see the 7 Rennies.
Yeah. So the idea there is if you hit the Rennie, which of these items are you actually...
The perfected item is the best one for Rennie. So you can just buy time for the for energy absorption to
there
scale
it
up.
is. Okay.
Very
This
nice.
Should be an item swap. He's got more than enough removers to figure it out.
Yep. Double Ken Baron items.
Still has a Flesh Ripper for the Savika. And... Okay, perfect. Actually, he's going to have enough items to be able to put... Oh, I was going to say maybe 3 items on the Savika. And he does have it. Double Titan's Flesh Ripper on the Savika.
The Elite on the Smeech almost takes him down, but Smeech is able to heal. Does finally get taken down. Can the Elise clear this? Just too much tankiness from the Rennie. Now Lilo has the Grim Reaper in this lobby. All the players who were not able to preserve HP in stage 4, players like Ironbach, for example, once they face a player like that has a 500 cash out like this, they could be in big trouble as well.
I'm pretty sure Ironbog didn't lose 45 HP in 1 round, so I'm very curious to see what happened there.
But has still taken a lot of hits and would be the next player eliminated. There are only 5 HP left. Bio's also going to be on a loss streak as well, sitting at 22 HP. I don't know if this Singed Augment has been worth it so far.
I think there is some counterplay to the Singe as well. If I think we all were able to see Dissoap's learning videos. He mentioned as well that Singed is going to target usually the corners. If you're able to place most of your carries in the middle area, Singed has a much harder time reaching them, takes a little bit too long, and in burstier, faster fights in stage 5 and 6, he just doesn't do enough.
Can this Jinx from Ironbog actually take out the Zeri in one shot? With the sniper's focus, it's a lot of damage, and he gets the 1.5 second stun as well.
It is Jinx 2 as well. Keep in mind there's a lot of damage. The problem is if you don't kill this Zeri right away, she's going to be able to heal up. And with that damage threat, Zoe 2 is not found. It's still just a Zoe 1. It's going to be a close one.
Zeri starting on the Jinx. Can Jinx cast fast enough?
Oh, Ezreal has to try to take down the final Bastion, but you've got this Anima Visage, so it's healing up in the face of this Ezreal.
Just disastrous for Ironbog. Not able to find the Zoe 2. Actually, it looks like he had the Alawi on the bench as well. Was it also an Alawi 1? Ironbog just barely missing the core units needed to win that fight.
And the swap of the items from the Loris to the Leona 3, once that was hit, you have the Overheal, you have the Bulky Buddies, you have the Anima Visage on 6 Sentinel. So much extra HP for that armor. So hard to deal with.
The other 6 Sentinel player we have is going to be Bio, now also up on the chopping block as Leloy is going to start mowing players down. And it's a very interesting selection here. Touch of Frost, recently buffed in the later half of the patch, and is able to stun characters. If you kill them, it's an AoE stun. Dasic, though, does have that Elise separated apart, so it's not going to accidentally pop.
Yeah, let's take a look at how this Singed is actually positioning and walking around the map, though, because like David called out, that is going to be what's vital. We're able to get the cast onto the Elise now, but because of the Mana Zane, it's actually not slowing down her cast all too much. Good news for Bio, though, up against his clone, the damage is not there. He'll be able to stay alive for one more round.
But he needs some critical upgrades. Sitting on Heimer 2, you also don't have, I think, the best items I would look at for Heimer. And you also need another Corki. There's just a couple of things that are missing here.
Lilo falls to Lucas off screen.
Whoa.
Goes 7th after a 500 cash out. Oh, I think it's because the Minimes and the Zeri was able to go through the Rennie 3.
Yeah, makes sense. If you're able to find a way to access that back line regardless of the front line, that's certainly one way to find a win against that board.
Could have been another Sterax for Jeditutor instead. Goes for the Death Plate on the Vander.
Ooh.
Potentially looking for a Vander 3. Not sure if he was trying to hold those on the bench or not. Or just that last item for the Draven instead.
Dasic found a Mordekaiser pair as well. I don't know if that was Mord 2. It was. That was a Mordekaiser 2. So Dasic finding a huge upgrade off at the carousel and a Mel in his shop. Dasic, who was looking like he was on death's door. Maybe he found a second shot at life.
This board looks good enough to me.
Mordekaiser with an interesting AD build. Death Plate Slam just for any little bit
the
of power.
rest are amazing. So he's fine.
I mean, sometimes we actually do see Edge of Night on Mordekaiser, so it's not entirely unheard of to see an AD item.
He's going to hit really fast.
Get damage in. You get damage in.
Exactly. Well, there's a Mel in the back line of Dasic's board.
Mordekaiser right into the back line there. Able to get very, very close to all that backline access. The Draven down to half HP. The Vander holding on, but it's going to look like a pretty big win here with the last Elise cast from Dasic. Able to survive here, and Jeduzor now taking down to 1 HP.
Oh, on the other side, though, Bio just fighting for this life in the first game. Needs to actually try to get this. And the Zeri, he can't get that backline access.
Heimer didn't even get all of the rockets out from that last cast. You have to wonder if that cast fully comes through. Is it enough damage to take out that Zeri? But Bio will fall. Jedu has secured a top 5 playing Family, which is actually kind of interesting because it's the top 5 secured in a position where Family can cap out quite high. And we're still kind of seeing it live in those middle placements.
He still has a lot of gold, though. That's 50 right there. And so can he actually level up and maybe find another pit fighter to add in?
I like this play. I mean, if you want to win, you want to win on 6 pit fighter. So, you know, doesn't do much for you holding on to that gold on level, rolling that gold on level 8. Dasic now with the Victor find. He might be the one macro player to come out.
Well, Mordekaiser 2 is definitely going to help with that.
This is just going to be the clone that Dishope is up against, so if there is a fight you're going to win, it's going to be this one.
And the Mordekaiser drag into the Elise Spider, such a great combo. Looks like a definitive win here once these Elites are able to kill the Morgana. The healing does come through for the Gunblade though, and it looks like it's going to be enough for now. Dishope staying alive.
Jedu falls off screen. Top 4 secured for the rest of the lobby.
And it was Day6's clone in that case.
We said it before, Jedu
has Mel though. I think that should be Mel's blessing that got activated.
And it was Day6 that fell off screen.
I really like that. Just going for the Mel on the level 8 when you have 5 Pit Fighter is just like, well, I get an extra placement. Great.
And
That's good
now
enough.
you put your Pit Fighter in, I think, over the Mel, I guess, if you want.
Well, look how close he is, too, to level 9.
That's
He's got
true.
50
Look
gold.
how much gold.
It's going to be a huge turn for Jedusaur. We're going to see a big roll down, try and find that Savika and get 6 Pit Fighter in.
We have our top 4, though, for this first game. And you can see the players with the win streaks at the top there.
If Experian could find 9 Savikas, I'm sure Jedusaur can find
Oh,
one.
he found one.
Oh,
There we go.
Oh, he actually already has one. It's just the Urgot that's not in, right?
Well, there's the Urgot.
He's looking for Savika 2 on his roll down. I don't know if he has Vi 2. Yeah, he's looking for Vi 2 and Savika 2. So a handful of ways to upgrade this board. He's going to be guaranteed 6 Pit Fighter. This is that essentially last rung on the ladder. The only thing you can really get from here is Vi 2, Savika 2.
And with Day6 being eliminated, Elises are back in the pool. Salpimi finds his frontline upgrade.
4 reroll players going up against each other. As we were talking about, artifacts plus concentration of power just makes those rerolls that much more powerful. I'm saying power a lot, but we'll see if Dishope can get through this.
And is this spike good enough for Jedusaur, who already activated that last stand from the Mel? As Dishope does have this Bladed Jewel that's doing quite a bit of work to be able to get through to these backline units, and it's going to be just another pass that eliminates Jedusaur. So that 6 Pit Fighter, not enough to actually keep him further in this game 1.
When you look at the career stats since the merging of the regions in set 7, Dishope has the highest top 1 rate among all players in the top 8. Along there with him, though, Jedusaur, who just fell in 4th, and Lucas. One of the highest top 1 rates that we have in the Americas, largely off of his, kind of creative play, but these 2 players contending with one another for a first in the first game.
Yeah, it's all Americas here close to the final lobby. We do have Salpimi, the lone CN representative, still trying to hang on. Taking a look at Lucas's board, this is a board that I feel like was the most surprising for me.
Yeah.
Just the triple healing factor and Leona as a main tank, which is not something we usually see.
I think it's maybe because you didn't hit the Rel or something else. Maybe you just found the Leona a little bit earlier, so you may as well go ahead and just use the rest of your gold instead of rolling to actually just push levels here. So that's why we see Lucas at 9, having to deal against this Dishope board. Though
backline.
This Leona also just can't stay alive, and so Lucas takes a huge hit from Dishope.
When you think of the shape of these 2 boards, though, it feels like Dishope is dismantling the win condition of Lucas. Lucas is built around healing, and Dishope, on the other hand, is built up around whittling down individual units by spreading the damage over time with Morellos.
The last big spike here, Rumble 2 is found. It's not really an itemized Rumble, so not going to be as impactful, but we'll see if that'll change the outcome of this next fight. For Dishope, we talked about the power of Morgana. Sub 3.0 AVP across the first 2 days. You need very specific conditions to play for it, and this is one of those conditions. Artifact into Blooding Jewel, into having a high tempo 3-star in the start of stage 3, and now taking over the lobby.
Where does the wrap come through? That's the big question for Salpimi. He cannot fight the Alawi face-to-face, but going on to the weak side.
Weak side's where you want to be here. It gives you the best chance of finding a wrap. Take a look at the Akali and the Nocturne. Akali finds her way into the back line. This is exactly the kind of fight that Salpimi wants, and a lot of the damage dealers are dead from Dishope, but you still have Morgana and the Malzahar alive. Alawi's hold on for just another second, but this is exactly what Salpimi wanted. Broke through the weak side of the board, found his way into that back line before the Malzahar and Morgana could ramp up against the fight.
I mean, that Heimerdinger didn't have a whole lot of time in that fight.
There was a Heimerdinger? I didn't see one.
Yeah, you're right.
He got kicked in the face.
Where'd he go?
Any Caitlyn's here? That would be the big swing for Lucas.
Well, Lucas had to sell his extra Caitlyn, though, to actually get the Rumble. And I was wondering if it might have been better for him to have just locked the shop, grabbed the Rumble, and played for the Caitlyn on the carousel. Then you get both 5 stars, two-star
5 cost.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's the next thing is 5 stars in the game.
Without the Caitlyn too, this composition does not win against Visionaries. You have to have big bursts of damage coming coming out. And yeah, that might be a win condition that he might have forfeited a bit earlier on.
You do see the Rumble now with the third item. The Crown Guard comes online here. Leona on the side, complete pivot to the left side of the board here, trying to last-minute position for this fight against Salpimi and to try and block all the damage coming in from the Nocturne and the Akali.
I mean, he does get the right positioning so that Leona is right in the face of that Akali and that Nocturne, but does it actually buy enough time for this Zeri to start to ramp up with this Rage Blade?
The Caitlyn does a lot with that big left side clump.
And the Caitlyn is still able to take down some serious foes, with the Zeri also having those full Rage Blade, or getting close to some pretty big Rage Blade stacks. That is going to be another fight win here for Lucas.
When you take a look at how those fights play out, you have to remember that Salpimi was able to break through the weak side of Dishop's board and find his way into the back, but Lucas was ready for it. He had the strong side of his front line directly up against the Akali and the Nocturne. There was no way to access that Zeri.
And this is really interesting because if we look at the board, he actually wants Salpimi to kill off Dish Soap, which is what has been happening. So we have a rock, paper, scissors situation going on. Lucas also defending against Dish Soap by holding on to his Malzahars.
Yeah, that's quite a few copies, but you can't find your Caitlyn.
It's going to be Lucas up against Dishop. We'll see if that rock, paper, scissors does actually take shape here.
Getting the value from the Crown Guard, the Rumble now in the front line, front and center, taking a lot of the brunt of the damage now. Leona will be the secondary tank when that Rumble gets taken down, and the Zeri slowly scaling, slowly trying to chip away the damage, but it's just so much coming out of the Blighting Jewel and the Morgana. The Caitlyn now locking onto the Heimer. The Morgana's last left alive alongside the Malzahar. It's going to be a close one, but Zeri taken down with a ticking damage, and Lucas on 1 life.
Wow, that was so close. It felt like just...
Had to be under like 200 HP.
Yeah.
That Morgana was nearly dead, and both units just pop at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
What a start for
And
the Americas.
Salpimi does get eliminated in a fight off screen, so we've got our top 2 here.
I thought Brazil was his own region already, no? Not yet? Okay. But huge upgrades available for Dishop. I think his board definitely is the one that has more potential to get some big finds here. He's only 1 off the Rumble and 2 off the Malzahar. Those are the key.
Caitlyn, we could see Caitlyn 2 potentially from Lucas.
Oh no.
Could be equally impactful. We'll see the Saw and the Malzahar as late as possible to not have them back in the unit pool for Dish Soap's roll down. And there we see it. No Malzahar 2 for Dish Soap. Still 15 gold to work with for Lucas.
Getting a third item on that Rumble 1 for Dishop could make a difference, but like you called out, more upgrades coming through.
Ooh, this is a potential. Really interesting. It's Edge of Night for the Rumble, so there could be a wrap here. He could drop the aggro and then go forward to the back line.
And the Victor's added in on Lucas's board.
Potentially final fight.
I do like this positioning from Lucas a little bit more. He's shoving that front line in the face of Dish Soap and his main carries, and that's the Caitlyn going through.
Another Rumble
Victor's done so big.
Before it does fall, to the allow he's going to fall. I mean, that front line is completely crumbled for Dish Soap, though.
And the Zeri on the Morgana, much better positioning this time around, completely swings the fight in his favor. Now Dish Soap also, taken down, huge loss this late into the game.